Hello, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association. Thanks for joining me for this IPA talk. And today it's a special one all the way around, particularly for me, because not only do we have our elementary principal of the year, but also someone I consider a good friend because I've known him for a long time. I don't know what that says about either one of us, Mark, but got Mark Pagel, who's Prairieview Elementary School up in Downers Grove at Centercast School District. Again, elementary principal of the year, but I got to say right out of the gate, Mark, and then we can reminisce here a little bit. You are, I think, not only the first, but probably the one and only person that has won 2 principal of the year awards at 2 different grade levels, because years ago you were middle school principal of the year, and my apologies, I didn't go back and look at the year. I thought I'd save us both that embarrassment of looking at the age, right? All that. But middle school principal of the year when you were at Dwight Middle School, I believe, correct? And now elementary principal of the year at Prairieview. So congratulations to you. That's terrific.
No, thank you, Jason. And it's clearly more than any person deserves, clearly more than I deserve. I was overwhelmed and honored and humbled back in 2010 when I was at Dwight, and you gave me the call about the middle school principal of the year. And so you can imagine I was doubly surprised this year because I just did not think that opportunity would come around again for elementary principal of the year. And it's such a testament to the staffs that I work with, the students that I get to serve every day. They get all the credit. I try to make sure that they know that every day. It's my name on the award, but it's our collective efforts that led to the honor. And so I'm just grateful to the IPA. As you highlighted, this is year 22 for me as a principal and year 22 for me with the IPA. So it's been a great run, and you and I have seen some things over the years come and go, and I'm sure we'll see that again, but I'm grateful to be on here and to just share some thoughts with you and with all of the principals across Illinois. IPA is a premier organization, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Well, sure grateful for that, and be remiss if I didn't share. I mean, you and I think, kind of served on the board together for a period of time, and then I stepped off and gave this job a run, and then served as exec while you were on the board, and sure grateful for your leadership at that moment in time. And just a lot of important decisions were made back then. I mean, still are today, but particularly about at that point in time that laid the foundation for many of the things that we have today. When I think about the technology we use, the fact that Ed Leaders Network exists, we have a model student handbook online. I mean, the board back then really did a lot of heavy lifting to help position us well. And you talk about working with good people, trusted the team here at IPA and the folks that I've had the pleasure of working with over time to make some good things happen.
Yeah, I've been excited and honored to play leadership roles in IPA back when I was Corn Belt Region Director for a while, State Director for a while, as you highlighted, back when some key decisions were making. I don't even think the facilities look like they do now back then,
right,
when we would come to meetings. And so I think that's been great. You as our fearless leader and just being future forward, I think I speak for all principals and admin across Illinois by saying we got it right with you in the leadership room. We've done it. Honestly, I know I'm not here
I'll write you the check
to build you up, but,
the money.
But I can tell you, everybody who has nothing but positive things to say about you and about this organization for principals and admin in Illinois. It's second to none. And so it's been quite a long, wild ride, and enjoyed every minute of it, truly.
Well, grateful for that. Thanks for those sentiments. It's definitely been fun. Not always been easy, of course. Had some tough things to slog through, of course, but that's part of it. That's why we're here, to make sure we're serving well. So, Mark, let's get into your story a little bit deeper here. We talked a little bit about, of course, your Prairieview now. You were at Dwight prior to that, but just tell us a little bit about your background overall.
Sure. So I actually grew up in Central Illinois in Dwight, where I went back to be a principal for my first admin job. I was a middle school math educator from Illinois State University, started in East Peoria, District 86. Tony Ingold, their superintendent now, and I started right around the same time. That was a great time to be at East Peoria. Was there about 6 years in the 90s, and then moved over to Unit 5 in Bloomington Normal, where I taught middle school math for 6 years at Chittix. And then I never really thought, and I know a lot of people say this, but it's my story as well. I didn't think I'd ever move into administration. I always said I didn't get into teaching to get out of it. But the principal there at the time, Ed Heineman, and I had some great conversations. Dale Heidbreeder, who was my co-teacher. I was the math and science. He was social studies and ELA, English language
Took
arts.
classes with Dale. Known Dale a long time too.
He is just, wow. Talk about, again, a leader that you want to follow and emulate. We started having conversations and started taking some administrative classes, really just to move over on the salary schedule. And as I did that, again, Dale and I and the co-teachers we were with, Robert Walton for a while, and then Diana Jansen, were doing some really cool things. Even back in the mid-90s with student-led conferences, we were doing some restorative justice things before we knew it was even called that. And we were doing integrated curriculum units. So really some powerful things with kids. And again, I give credit to Ed Heineman for giving us the freedom to do those things. And I decided that I wanted to explore whether or not I could bring those same kind of things to a bigger platform across the school, as opposed to just our middle school teams that we were on at Chittix. And so that's kind of what led me in that direction, was just having a broader impact for some really positive things that I thought we were doing with kids. I wanted to look at doing positive things in a broader spectrum, which brought me into administration. So started at Dwight, blessed and lucky to be there from 2002 to 2011. That brought me to Elwood with Tim Arnold, who I have nothing but respect for and admiration as a leader as well. Was at Elwood for 3 years as a K-8 principal. Again, right during my transition, so it was an interesting time. From Dwight to Elwood was when I got the 2010 Middle School Award.
Right.
So while you called me at Dwight, I accepted it while I was at Elwood, which was interesting, but still a great moment and one that I'll cherish for a long time. And then after Elwood for 3 years in 2014, I came to Prairieview here, which is grades 3 through 5, an intermediate building. And I can tell you that it has been one of the greatest blessings for me. I hope my staff and my students feel that way, my community. We are really proud to be Panthers and truly act as a community, which, as you know, over the last several years, we've needed with some real trials and tribulations out there. I couldn't ask to be at a better place. So
talk to us more deeply about your school, Mark. What are some things you got going on? Talk to us about your kids, all of that stuff.
Yeah. So in terms of Prairieview, we're our phrase here is it's a perfect day to be a Prairieview Panther. So we try to create a climate where every member of our community, every student, staff member, family member has a chance to shine. And we try to recognize that and celebrate that. Again, it was difficult over the last few years, but I will say one thing that I'm most proud of is how we maintained really an optimistic attitude and the belief that we could do hard things and that brighter days were ahead each day throughout the last couple of years. Not to say that there weren't moments, but especially that first 2021 school year where, again, districts were deciding, are we in session? Are we not in session? Are we hybrid? We stayed open, and I think we did that to the benefit of our students. There were some tough days being online and in person, but I looked at it as my role to try to keep us moving forward in a positive direction. I looked for every opportunity I could to support and serve my students. It was an interesting time to be a leader as well. And so I think that what could have been a real challenge and impacted us in a negative way really became a shining example of how we want to come together and make a difference for our kids, regardless of the circumstances. And so we got through that. Even though I know that it's still out there, it feels great not to have to worry about so much the masks and the social distancing. But we haven't been able to fully exhale yet because we've got a referendum on the horizon that we're trying just to keep our doors open. Honestly, we had to make some deep cuts. We didn't pass in June. We're coming back in November. And so it's still been a tough time, but I'm hoping and I'm seeing that belief that we can do hard things. And if we come together, we can accomplish anything is carrying us through this time as well. So again, we're looking forward to brighter days ahead, and we're confident that they're out there just around the corner coming up here.
Yeah. So as we've alluded to, Mark, you and I have known each other a long time. I know you just kind of naturally to be a pretty optimistic person. But you talk about dealing with hard things, leading through hard things, and even being an optimistic person as you are, that's not always easy. So, how have you worked to maintain your mindset around, being, because I think what I've learned, and I've dealt with some tough stuff as a school leader here at IPA, of course. And when you lead through those things and get through them and get them in your rearview mirror, it's like, wow, we've proven ourselves. I mean, there's something, if you're able to stick with it, that you prove about yourself, right? And it can be a little bit encouraging, but while you're in the middle of it, it's not easy. So I'm just kind of curious, especially if we've got newer, younger leaders that are watching this. What do you do to work to maintain that mindset while you're having to plow through some hard things?
Well, honestly, as we were working through the pandemic, and I think it's safe to say we all felt like it was the first time ever where deeply I did not know what to do for the next step. We're all looking at each other going, how do we make this work when the world is what it was? And so you just try things, you give yourself a lot of grace, that you're not going to do it perfectly, but it's about progress, not perfection. And then every little victory, everything you do that does work out, you just hang your hat on that and start looking at the next thing and use that as kind of motivation. Like, hey, we didn't think we could do this and we did. I think we can do this too. During that entire time, you really do have to keep the belief that you will figure it out and that there are going to be some difficult times, but being there for your staff, being there together, looking out for each other, knowing that we have each other's back in all situations, again, takes us back to, I really believe now, back then we didn't know, but we do now, that no matter what is thrown at us, we can figure it out. I think for myself personally, as a leader, you do have to have a certain measure of emotional intelligence. Like, you've got to be able to recognize that.
I think a lot. You were being very calculated in your thought, but I think it's more than a certain measure. It's like a truckload.
Well,
right?
I didn't know if anybody watching this was like, I don't know if I have a really good intelligence. But to be real, like, I really feel like you do. I do take a lot of pride in the fact. I just was talking to this with someone the other day. We've got a couple of new principals in our district, and they're just getting to know me. Again, I'm in my last year, so I'm kind of in my swan song. They're just coming into their own. And one of them said to me during a conversation, like, I've only worked with you a couple of months, and I can't believe that you would always be like this, Mark, that you're always like upbeat, optimistic. I try to bring humor into situations. At the same time, I try to be a realist. Like, I get that toxic positivity is out there. I don't know if that's always necessarily a thing, because I think as long as you're being positive, but you're also being real with where you are, to me, being positive is just, again, holding out that hope that solutions are there. If we just keep searching, seeking, and trying enough things, we'll get there. And so in terms of having high emotional intelligence, I'm a firm believer that if the principal sneezes, the school catches a cold. And so, I love that quote. My teachers hear it all the time. And so for me, I try to keep myself healthy in any and all ways possible. And most importantly, when it comes to climate and culture, because I really believe that is a primary reason that our teachers stay, that we have teachers apply to be here, is because word is on the street that Prairieview really is a positive place to teach and learn and grow. And so I feel like that starts with me. And I know you've got staffs that can impact that, but then that's your job as a leader to find out what each of your staff members needs and work to provide that so that everybody grows and becomes their best self.
Well, the other sense I get, again, just knowing you like I do, Mark, and understanding your leadership style is while you've probably never said this explicitly, but the sense that I've always had about you is just exhibiting an appropriate level of transparency, right? You talked about through the pandemic, like turning left or right and not really knowing what to do, and just being able, get everybody together, put your minds together and see, what sticks. But to lead through that, you almost have to be willing to say, listen, I'm doing what I think's best, but what I'm thinking about here may not be exactly right. And we may have to drop back and punt and try again. So, but not having the ability to say it like that and always sitting in this, well, I've got the answers and I'm going to figure it out and all of that. Right. Sometimes we tend to see leaders fail in that way of thinking.
And Jason, you've just got to be true to who you are. Like I wasn't trying to be anybody that I wasn't. And at the same time, that you have to have a measure of vulnerability, that you don't have to have all the answers. And I think a lot of times we think leadership means having all the answers. And I, over the years, I've learned that that's not the case at all. You've just got to be able to help those around you and yourself seek the solutions. And so I think that was something that we learned going through the pandemic as well, is, let's make sure that we are constantly seeking solutions. Yes, today can feel hard. This moment might feel hard, but let's not get swallowed up by the problem. Let's spend our time focusing on how can we make things better for each of us tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mark, you kind of touched on this briefly, and I kind of shared this with you before we hit the record button. I wanted to be sure that we talked about our theme a little bit this year, which is Leaders of Hope. And as I mentioned to you, and I've done this with our other principals of the year that I've talked to, that I really like this theme a lot. I've been at this for a while. It probably is my most favorite because I really believe in the importance of hope where leadership is concerned, but particularly for schools in this moment in time, because of what we've come through and trying to kind of hit the reset button and chart, the new normal forward requires a lot of hope. And so I'm just kind of curious, what your perspective is on that. When you think about leading with hope, what that means to you and why or why not, what might that be important?
Yeah, when I first saw the theme and then you and I talked right before we got on, my first thought was, I don't know what I'm going to say. Honestly, but Jason, as we've been talking, I think what I keep coming back to for everything we're talking about is, if you and I can be real with each other, everything that we do in our positions hinges on hope.
Yeah.
Everything we do as educators hinges on hope. When you are with that student each day and you're doing all you can with your toolbox to make a difference with that student, it's hope that keeps you going, because we don't always know, we don't always see the fruits of our labor. We talk about that here all the time for a third grader that flourishes in fifth grade. And the third grade team is like, well, why didn't we see that? And I said, hey, you were planting seeds all along.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to teaching and learning and leadership, hope is the catalyst for everything that we do in our roles. We're hoping to make brighter days for each other, for our students, for our country in the end, through education, and through making a difference with the students that we serve. And so I hate to think of what it would be like in an environment where hope wasn't a driving force, that our best days are ahead. And I still feel that today, knowing that I've only got a few months left. I still feel like my best days are ahead in leadership and administration. So yeah, absolutely. So as we wrap up, Mark, I'm going to give you a little special privilege here, because this is your last year in school leadership. And while I feel like even though you're going to be quote unquote retired, you're really probably not going to be. And we might always need a little extra help at IPA with mentoring, coaching, and all of that kind of stuff, right? Love to. Yeah.
I'm just, if you had one thing that you would want to, instill in a brand new school leader, you mentioned some in your own district, but if you're talking with a brand new school leader right now, what would be maybe the one thing you would share with them that you think is absolutely most critical, universal, doesn't matter what personality type is or whatever, what's universal for school leaders to be successful?
In my twilight years here at Prairieview, I have given that some thought. And I guess this is where I landed, Jason. And that is, each of us is the sum total of every person that we've ever come. I'm going to get emotional because I'm loving what I'm doing, but it's you, as you know, it's bittersweet when you're at this stage, right?
Right.
You're the sum total of every life that you've touched or that's touched you. And I have been blessed along the way, some we talked about earlier, to always have champions that have been my biggest supporters, whether it's my wife and my kids, my amazing family, my parents when I was younger, my brothers, here in schools, all the way through my career for all the schools I highlighted. I've always had people in my corner being a champion for me. And that's why I've had such a blessed and amazing journey. And so I guess what I would say to someone new is look around you and see who your champions are, who's really there for you and has your back and is there to cheer you for every success and not maybe talk about you on the side when that happens, but genuinely cheer for you, because those are your true champions. And at the same time that you're looking around at your champions and trying to find a way to show them your gratitude, look around and see who you can be a champion for. I try to do that all the time. Like, who am I a champion for at my school, at home, in our community? As you do that each day and you are a champion or you have a champion and you make a difference, every day is a dream to do what we do. And I still feel that way after this is year 33. So I'm looking forward to keep dreaming the dream.
Love that. Thanks for those thoughts, Mark. Mark Pagel, our two-time Principal of the Year here in the state of Illinois. Congrats to you again. That's outstanding.
Thank you, Jason. And thanks to the IPA. Again, I couldn't be prouder to be a member. And you guys are. You're just the premier organization to support administrators. For those of you out there watching this, get involved, get active, and make sure that you share your stories with those around you as well and be a champion for someone.
Yeah, we need those stories for sure. Thanks, Mark. Again, my name is Jason Leahy, Executive Director of the Illinois Principals Association, with our Elementary Principal of the Year, Mark Pagel, who is at Prairieview Elementary School. As always, if there's anything that IPA can do for you, don't hesitate to give us a call or check us out on the web at www.ilprincipals.org. Take care.